It's official. It doesn't matter where you stand on the political spectrum, there's no denying it. The Liberal Party of Canada just staged one of the greatest political comebacks in modern history.
The representative of Hamilton has the floor.
The common thought about the last election in 2021 was that it was very unnecessary. The result was nearly identical to the 2019 election and was seen by most Canadians as a costly waste of time and money. The 2025 election couldn't be further from that. Many Canadians felt this was the most important election of their lives. With the unaffordability crisis at home and annexation threats by our southern neighbor, the stakes were definitely higher than your average election. And the results of said election have genuinely shaken up Canadian politics in some pretty extreme ways. There were a lot of unexpected results. The broader prediction of a Liberal victory came true, but many polling predictions in individual ridings were way off. In summary, one party had a historic W, one party had a pretty poor result, and one party got absolutely decimated. So let's start by talking about that. Drop a 50 bag for the mob in a spot. To me, the biggest story of this election has to be the collapse of the NDP and third parties in general. Seriously, if you're a big fan of third parties, this might be the worst election ever for you. Only 7 seats outside of Quebec went to third parties. 6 NDP, 1 Green. Not a single riding went third party in Ontario. Look at what happened in my riding, Hamilton Centre, one of the safest NDP seats in the whole country. The NDP have won this seat for 30 straight years, sometimes with 50 or even 60% of the vote. This is what we call a stronghold. Hamilton Centre's NDP rep is Matthew Green, a well-respected Hamilton politician with no major scandals. He's a valuable progressive voice in Parliament and serves Hamilton Centre well. He came in 3rd place against a Liberal drop-in candidate who lives in fucking Mississauga. I think my riding especially shows just how much Canada has rallied around Mark Carney specifically. Matthew Green of the NDP is arguably a much better choice to represent Hamilton Centre than somebody who lives 3 cities away, but it feels like people blindly voted Liberal anyway to better secure a victory for Mark Carney. Matthew Green was projected by the pollsters to handily take this riding. For the NDP to come in 3rd behind the Conservatives in my riding, it genuinely shocked me. And there's a ton of other ridings with stories like this too. Kitchener Centre is a wild example. Mike Morris of the Green Party is a well-respected incumbent that was projected to win his seat again. He's the only other Green MP aside from Elizabeth May. Unfortunately for Mike fans, many were compelled to vote in the Liberal candidate instead, likely in support of Mark Carney, more than the Liberal MP they were actually voting in. This caused the left-leaning vote to split between the Greens and the Liberals, and because of this, the Conservatives came out on top. We need electoral reform. But no NDP riding had a defeat as brutal as Burnaby Central, where NDP leader Jagmeet Singh came in a distant 3rd with only, wait, is that right? 18% of the vote in his own riding? During his concession speech, Jagmeet said he would step down, but it's not exactly clear who will replace him at this point. Most of the candidates people were excited to see potentially become the next NDP leader all just lost their elections. This election was the worst showing for the NDP ever. They even lost official party status. I cannot understate how terrible the NDP did this election. Everyone knew they would lose seats, but 7? To me, this was the biggest surprise of the night, and the NDP have a very shaky and uncertain future because of it. The Conservatives had a pretty surprising night too. Some good surprises, some really, really bad surprises.
Yo, Pierre, you want to come out here?
Let's first talk about what's good for the Conservatives. They campaigned hard in Southern Ontario, and it looks like it paid off. They flipped a lot of Liberal and NDP ridings, and are virtually tied in Ontario's popular vote with the Liberals. Conservatives gained seats, saw a huge bump in the popular vote, but when you look at the big picture, it's not hard to see this outcome as a disappointment. They were 20+ points over the Liberals just a few short months ago. But not only did the Liberals win, They're sniffing a majority. What the hell happened? Well, personally, I believe the X factor of this entire election has been Pierre's underwhelming response to Trump's threats. If we could go back to January and see Pierre be more publicly scathing to Trump than the Liberals, we would see a completely different outcome. He wasn't outright aligned with Trump, but he definitely wasn't as hard on him as Carney. Danielle Smith certainly didn't help either.
Pierre Poilievre is the name of the Conservative Party leader, and he was miles ahead of Justin Trudeau. But because of the what we see as unjust and unfair tariffs, it's actually caused an increase in the support for the Liberals. I would hope that we could put things on pause. This is what I've told administration officials. Let's just put things on pause so we can get through an election. The perspective that Pierre would bring would be very much in sync with, I think, where the new direction in America, and I think we'd have a really great relationship for the period of time they're both in.
Let me get one thing straight here. Canadians fucking hate Trump now. It's common to hear people fantasize about his murder in casual conversations up here. We hate Trump more than we hate the Liberal Party. So when the Conservatives attack the Liberals more than Trump, it's not a good look. Okay, it's time to talk about the elephant in the room. One of Pierre's greatest strengths has been his performance in Parliament, commonly winning arguments against his opponents. He's experienced and he knows what to say to get Conservatives riled up. But after 20 years of being in Parliament, he's out. He can't debate Carney or anyone in Parliament moving forward. Dude just lost his job. The last time a Conservative leader lost his own seat in an election was Kim fucking Campbell. There's really only two routes the Conservatives can take after this election. They can either keep Pierre as leader and have a by-election to get him a seat in a safer riding, or they toss Pierre to the curb and find a new leader. Yeah, okay, so quick update. I just got this root beer incense and it smells pretty good. Also, Pierre is running in a by-election. Carney said he would hold one for him, no strings attached. So he's running in one of the most conservative ridings in the country. Can you believe it? So it seems like the Conservatives are sticking with Pierre, at least for now. And as you'll see in this video, I don't think that's a very good idea. I've talked with some people, friends, customers, acquaintances, and a lot of them have said the same thing to me. I don't like the Liberals. I want to vote Conservative, but I can't because of Pierre. There's a lot of things that turn people off from Pierre. His refusal to let press on his campaign trail, his refusal to get a damn security clearance.
They said that if I got the secret security clearance briefings, that I would be gagged under the security law.
The fact he uses American buzzwords like woke, we need to stop the woke mob, like, what the fuck are you even talking about?
Doesn't believe in any of the woke stuff that we've seen taking over our politics for the last 5 years.
He's seen by a lot of people as a sketchy candidate, but it's his lack of response to Trump that's turned people off more than anything. I mean, look at Doug Ford. He barely mentioned the opposition in his provincial campaign. He made it all about how he was tough on Trump. Doug Ford didn't win big in Ontario because Ontario is overwhelmingly conservative. He won big because he was the most anti-Trump candidate. Also because we need electoral reform. The federal Conservatives are in kind of an awkward place right now. Yes, they made mad gains in Ontario and held firm in the West, but compared to projections just a few months ago, it's not hard to see this Conservative performance as a weak one. They got 41% of the popular vote, which is a massive boost up from 33% in the last election. It's too bad the Liberals went from 32 to 43. Yes, it's time to talk about the Liberals. They didn't get the majority they wanted, but looking at the big picture again, the results are nothing more than astounding. The Liberal Party 4 months ago was a complete joke, a fucking write-off. Back then, in a previous video, I called the Liberal leadership race the campaign to become lolcow Prime Minister because their grave was set in stone. The next Prime Minister of Canada will be Mark Carney. That is until... Mark, no, Mark, look behind you. Look, no. No matter who they nominated, it wouldn't matter since Canada's next elected prime minister was going to be Pierre. Well, fuck. Instead, the Liberals gained 11% of the popular vote over last election. 43% is their highest result since 1980. This party went from a rock-bottom national embarrassment to having more support than in the past 45 years, all in the span of 4 months. This is, without exaggeration, the craziest political comeback I've ever seen in my life from any country. It was likely two major things that caused this: Trudeau stepping down, and of course Trump. And the collapse of the NDP, but we already talked about that. Mark Carney is a banker with international financial experience, while Trudeau was the lucky son of a famous former politician. It's no secret that Mark is better fit for this moment than Trudeau, and as a bonus, Mark seems personally popular with people. Left-leaning and center people like him. They like his attitude, his straightforward way of answering questions, this no-nonsense approach. Conservatives really wanted to paint him as the puppet master behind Trudeau's awful financial policy, but there's no real proof of these claims. He was a financial advisor for the party since only September, and who says Trudeau even did what he suggested? If the Conservatives truly believe someone was pulling the strings behind the scenes the whole time, why didn't they say anything until after Trudeau stepped down, instead of getting ahead of the narrative? Many of the Conservative attacks against the Liberals after Trudeau stepped down fell flat. It's the same party, yes, but with a fresh coat of paint. There's a lot of people who hated the Liberal Party and what it stood for 4 months ago. But it stands for something else now, and clearly, people have been swayed back. I recommend watching my previous political video if you want a more in-depth look at how this Liberal resurgence came to be. Trump's threats to Canada have taken over Canadian public consciousness. From tariffs to annexation, how Canada deals with the US is on top of everyone's mind. Canadians hate the US in general right now. So when Mark is quoted as saying our historic partnership is over and we need to move on from it, it resonates with people. This is what people want to hear in this moment. We don't want to cooperate. They're threatening annexation. Fuck them. Pierre's failure to speak the same anti-Trump language in his campaign as the Liberals was the biggest factor that made this election the way it was. People rallied around the Liberals and left the NDP in the dust to make sure Mark Carney got in and Pierre didn't. If Pierre was harder on Trump from the start, I don't believe people would have been as emboldened to vote Liberal, and maybe the NDP would have held on to more seats. Maybe the Conservatives would have won the election. But hey, that's just my pinky opinion. There's a lot more that's going to happen in the coming months. With Pierre, Jagmeet, and Justin out of Parliament, throughout the year we'll likely see some fresh new faces pop up as mainstays. If you're an unknown federal politician in Canada trying to make a name for yourself, this is the best chance you're going to get.
For Albertans as a whole, for people across the country, for these hardworking people around me and those like them in the trades. And that's what my job is.
I'll take that as a no then.
No, you'll take that as a very comprehensive answer to your question.